How do you make an avoidant want you again? How do you get him or her to care about you as much as they did in the very beginning of your relationship? To be open, loving, trusting, and most importantly, sure that they want to be with you. Have you ever experienced this sad paradox that a stranger can sometimes understand you better than your friends or family? That when you open up to the people closest to you, you often end up feeling judged or shut down. Maybe that's why you're on YouTube watching videos about avoidance, because when you talk to your friends about your relationship, they just roll their eyes and tell you to move on. What if I were to tell you that understanding this paradox is what unlocks the key to making your avoidant want you again? In this video, I'll explain why it's sometimes easier to connect with a stranger and how you can become this stranger who your avoidant wants to go above and beyond for. Hi guys, I'm Carolina. I used to be anxiously attached and I was dating an avoidant. Today, that avoidant is my husband. So I've been exactly where you are, and I've also seen what actually works in real life. The perfect beginning. Like for many of you watching, my relationship with Gabriel, my then avoidant boyfriend, now husband, started off like a fairy tale. We had a connection I'd never felt before. We talked for hours. He pursued me relentlessly. Our chemistry was off the charts. He made me feel seen, chosen, special. In the beginning, he was all in. He planned dates. He texted first. He introduced me to his friends. I remember thinking, finally, someone who knows what he wants. But then, somewhere around the 6-month mark, something changed. His text became shorter, our plans became vaguer. He'd need alone time more frequently. I'd see him less and less. And when we were apart, there was this new distance I couldn't explain, but it was making me more and more anxious, especially since eventually he even broke up with me. I know you know exactly what I'm talking about. That cold, confusing moment when the person who couldn't get enough of you suddenly seems like they're looking for the exit. The avoidant pull away is painful, it's confusing, and honestly, it's inevitable with an avoidant partner. So, why does it happen? Let's go back to that stranger paradox. Why does the honeymoon phase with an avoidant feel so effortless? If you feel threatened by me asking this very question, don't. I'm not going to spoil anything for you. Call me naive, but I do believe in true love. I know that finding someone you really click with is rare and very special. I'm not here to minimize any of it. But to know how to make your avoidant partner want you again, you first have to grasp what made things so perfect in the beginning. Unfortunately, even when you meet your soulmate, your relationship is only effortless in the honeymoon phase. But why is that? Two people who just met are still very emotionally independent. They're likely completely independent in the pragmatic sense, too. You don't have any shared responsibilities yet, but more importantly, you also don't feel responsible for the other person's feelings. This brings me to the stranger paradox. Why can it be easier to connect with a stranger than with someone you're close to? Well, it's because a stranger doesn't feel responsible for you and you don't feel responsible for them. When you tell your best friend about your relationship problems, he or she might get protective of you or get angry for you. They'll try to fix the situation instead of just listening. So much so, you might not even want to open up to them because you know how they'll react and that they won't give you what you need. So, the reason why the honeymoon phase feels so effortless with an avoidant is because you're still two strangers. You're emotionally separate, which means you can be more authentic and honest. You can just communicate without walking on eggshells. You can be more transparent and set boundaries without feeling guilty. Because of all this, ironically, you have more space for each other's needs. Neither of you takes things personally, so you can connect on a deeper, more meaningful level without unspoken grudges or silent expectations coming in the way, without obsessing about the future or remembering something from the past. You don't get triggered when your partner needs space, and they don't feel pressured when you need something. Emotional detachment allows you to feel close, but also keeps your partner's avoidance at bay. Honeymoon phase cannot last forever. At some point, a relationship has to become more stable and serious. It's unrealistic to think that you can remain two strangers, detached, independent, but connected. Love requires commitment. When you love someone, you do become responsible for them. Avoidants have a hard time accepting this. Things that scare avoidance away. Avoidants wish for the honeymoon phase to last forever. That's why they insist on their independence and detachment, because in their experience, that's how you can maintain that authentic connection. In their minds, more closeness and security only ruins things. It turns love into obligation, intimacy into a routine, and closeness into a trap. So they pull away after intense intimacy or closeness. They also sometimes bail on you right before or right after official events. Gabriel did this to me. He came to Poland with me for a wedding and then tried breaking up and bailing on me the day before the party. Some avoidants will not want to celebrate birthdays with you or will even intentionally ghost you on your special day. That's because they're afraid of everything that's communicating seriousness. They want a forever, non committal love affair. They don't want to make things official or set in stone. Sometimes they'd rather keep on loving you from a distance than take responsibility for you or your feelings. This is the reason why they can be so cold or dismissive, especially dismissive avoidance, or distant and unavailable. This is more true for fearful avoidance. They don't want to take care of you. So when you try to get them to care, they rebel. This is also why they generally don't respond well to love letters or confessions of love. They have a hard time trusting you and tend to see them as attempts at emotional entrapment or manipulation. Avoidants are the definition of a commitment phobe. They start pulling away when a relationship becomes serious because they're afraid of serious relationships. But just because they're scared of something, it doesn't necessarily mean they don't want it. How to make an avoidant want you again? Avoidants want seriousness without it feeling like a prison. They want stability without just fulfilling expectations. They want to take care of you out of their own volition, not out of a sense of obligation. All this is possible. What's more, it's what you want too. So, how do you make avoidance see that you want the same things? You do it by becoming a stranger again. That time when Gabriel almost ditched me a day before meeting my whole family, he said to me, I don't know what I want. I'm not ready for serious commitment. Initially, I was very upset, but then something changed. It was as though I flipped the switch. I stopped feeling like an abandoned girlfriend and became a bit more of a selfish stranger. I said to him, look, there is no way I'm going to this wedding freshly dumped without a plus one. Right now, I don't need serious commitment. I need a date for the party tomorrow night. That's all. We can go our separate ways afterwards, but you're already here and you have your suit with you. I'm not letting you talk your way out of this one. Gabriel was surprised. He was expecting me to be offended and put him on a train back to Vienna that very evening. He didn't consider I'd drag him to the wedding under a no strings attached situationship status. But I did because I wasn't relating to him as my boyfriend who was letting me down, but as a stranger I needed to negotiate with to find a solution that worked for both of us. He stated his terms, no long term commitment. I agreed to these and stated mine. All I needed at that very moment was for him to be my plus one. That was it. He obviously came along. It was a bit bittersweet introducing him to everyone, secretly knowing he wasn't serious about me. But at the same time, I just wanted to make the most of it. And we did, relating to Gabriel in this detached, self serving way as though we were two strangers who just met, made him want me again. It brought back all the feelings from our honeymoon phase. He suddenly felt like a stranger to me too, but in an exciting way. We had so much fun that night and made so many memories. After the wedding, we were going our separate ways anyway. I flew to Italy for a trip I planned long before, and he went back to Austria. The fact that I was suddenly relating to him as though he was a stranger kept his avoidant attachment at bay. It canceled our breakup and made him more engaged. He was texting me every day and even made me search for spots with public Wi Fi stable enough for us to have a video call. There were no eSIMs back then. I was positively surprised. I didn't expect it. It was only later that I learned that this step, detaching emotionally and becoming strangers again, is an unskippable stepping stone if you want to reset or rekindle a relationship. So much so, now we teach this in our expat program, where we explain in detail how failing to do this, failing to emotionally detach from your partner, will only drive your ex away. We also give you a 5-step method for getting back together with an avoidant ex. To learn more, you'll find a link to get your ex back in the description. It's available in 2 versions, one for women and one for men. So, how do you become a stranger to your avoidant partner? How do you use this principle to make them want you again? First off, you need to detach emotionally and stop scaring them away with prospects of a serious relationship. Stop trying to leverage what connected you in the past to push for a future they said they're not ready for. Flip that switch in your own head and accept that you two are strangers who barely know each other, which means their problems shouldn't be your problems. And you also need to accept that your problems are their problems. So if you want to text your avoidant partner, don't think to yourself, oh, how is it going to make them feel? Think, how is this going to make me look like? They're a stranger, right? So you can't be too raw with them. You need to think of the impression you're making on this other person. If you want to ask for something, don't obsess whether or not they'll give it to you. You already know if they will or won't. Much like you wouldn't ask your work colleague to comfort you emotionally, don't demand that your estranged avoidant partner does it either. However, going with the colleague analogy, if you needed them to come and feed your dog one evening, this is a perfectly reasonable request. Or to hold on to your keys for now, or the dresser that happens to still be at their place. Dare to treat your avoidant partner as though he or she was a stranger. And you'll instantly reignite their desire for you. They'll initiate more and be on better behavior. Additionally, he or she will have the need to try to impress you and win you over again. It will make all their doubts about you and your relationship vanish and transport you to back into the honeymoon phase. This hack is more of a short-term solution rather than a permanent fix. It can reignite your passion and help you to reconnect, much like Gabriel and I did at the wedding. Experiences like this matter a lot, and they are very meaningful. However, the bigger part of the challenge with an avoidant is getting them to stop pulling away or leaving you, period. This is what I explain in this next video here.